Okay, welcome to our Mochi Podcast, episode 4 with Maggie Love. This is the only podcast rated R for Robin. I fucked up the order for that, but whatever.
We're chilling. It's good. It's casual.
How's it going, Maggie?
We're here to chat. Things are good. I just got back from Miami to New York City. It's spring in New York. I went on an incredible run this morning. You can just like smell the fresh air and
We got in
feel.
Ukraine. We got fucking juked by the weather. Like it was spring for 1 week, and then it got back to like heavy snow and fucking negative temperatures again.
Shouldn't you be used to that from Chicago? That's a very Chicago move of Ukraine.
Yeah, I have been making a lot of the connections between the weather patterns. I mean, it's still not something enjoyable.
Right, of course. People ask me that all the time about coming from Chicago when it's cold. They're like, you should be used to this. You're from Chicago. And I was like, no one likes being
It's
cold.
like,
There's
it's
no,
like being used
I'm
to
sorry,
being
I should
unhappy.
say,
It's not a good thing if you are.
exactly. It's not right. It's not like you can compare um, being from the cold and being used to the cold or enjoying the
Mhm.
cold. Like those things do not uh, equal one
Which is very
another.
much not the same for like people from like tropical climates. Like my family and I'll admit myself, like my body functions and is like happier when it's just like hot as fuck out. Uh, Even though like in my mind I prefer the cold, I just know my body feels better when it's way too hot out.
That's fair. And a lot of your family's migrating to California, so I guess that's very true then.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're also just like they're fans of the trendiness and like the surfing. I mean, there's also a pretty big Filipino population, so I guess they won't be like too fish out of watery. But I don't know. I've never been a big fan of like the whole California culture stuff.
It's an interesting place. I think there is many cultures, but I personally vibe with uh the New York culture, which you can find LA culture in New York, but you can find so many cultures. It's a little more laid back, a little more grungy,
Food's better in New
a
York though,
little
isn't it?
less every cuisine except Mexican.
Mm.
So California has better Mexican food.
Yeah, I can't actually like point really to anything that's like iconic Californian food aside from like In-N-Out Burger, but is like better than other places. Like
Ooh,
I can point to so many things from Chicago, like Portillo's, Five Guys, Illuminati's, Giordano's. I mean, a lot of it is like Italian food stuff, but I mean, it's Chicago Italian food.
right. Portillo's is the Chicago
Yeah,
staple.
Chicago's suburbs too.
I That
It's
is
not
one
just
thing
like
I
the
miss.
city.
Yeah, it's a suburb culture. It's suburb
Hmm.
culture. Like if you grew up going to Portillo's, like I'm immediately a fan. If you say Portillo's, I'm like, okay, we are similar people. But yeah, I don't really like In-N-Out Burger. Their fries aren't cooked well. I don't really get
Ooh,
it. I try to get it each and every
firing some
time.
shots here
You apparently have
early
to
on in the
ask for your. You
podcast.
apparently have to. You have. You have to ask for your fries to be cooked more. Like, why would you sell uncrispy potatoes? I don't understand. I'm a big French fry aficionado. I actually love potatoes in all
What place would you
forms,
say has the best French fry?
but not cold. Ooh, the best French fry. You know, there used to be a great. It actually might still exist. It's just apparently the owner of the restaurant in New York was a pig and actually had to do. It was something that had their name was Pig too. So it was like this burger place in the West Village that had like the really string and like curly yet shoestring
Hmm.
fries, and they're just so crispy. And they give you this giant plate of them
I'm
next to
still
your
stuck on.
burger. It
You
was like
mentioned
so
that
aggressive.
the owner is a pig, and then it's all. Is this like a "you are what you eat" kind of joke, or is this like a was he gluttonous?
Oh, sorry, no, he was a perv. Like he
Oh,
was apparently a harasser.
oh,
So,
okay, yeah,
um,
gotcha.
then I was like, when you first asked me that question, I was like, yeah, maybe he was doing some like internal, like he was calling himself out. You know how we all kind of like call ourselves out sometimes without meaning to call ourselves out. So maybe the name came from the fact that he
His lecherous habits.
is also not yeah, he has bad habits. So, It's not the Purple Pig, that's a Chicago place.
I'd never been to it, so I don't
Um,
know.
that's on, like, the river, like, that river walk
Hmm.
area. It's relatively newer. But, yeah, I'm, like, more of, like, this shoestring even McDonald's does better fries if we're really gonna get into the In-N-Out versus other
Hmm.
burger chains. But they just have to be crispy. Fries have to be crispy.
Yeah, I'm personally probably like between like Five Guys, Portillo's, and McDonald's.
Yeah, those are all good. Five Guys can be a lot though, but there's actually a really cool bar in New York above a Five Guys. So it's funny because like the bottom of it, you that's the whole point. It's a speakeasy, right? So you think it's a Five Guys, and then you go upstairs and it's this really cool speakeasy. Any New Yorkers out there looking for a date spot, I would suggest it's also somewhere in the West Village.
When you say speakeasy, is it like hidden in a wall, as in like Prohibition era, or?
You have to go upstairs. So if you were just an average person probably walking on the street looking for a hamburger, you wouldn't know. And then if you're bringing somebody there, it's kind of funny because you're like, "Why are you bringing me to a Five Guys?" And you walk upstairs and, like, I think you go behind this door and it opens up into a really cool
If they're
bar.
questioning why you're bringing them to a Five Guys, you shouldn't be with that person.
That's true. That's true.
There's this,
I mean, you can imagine in New York that probably happens a lot with the types of different types of crowds
yeah, I
here.
imagine. There's this one place in Lviv. I can't remember the name of it. That's going to be a recurring thing. I'm very bad at remembering names. I'm super bad at remembering names. But I'm like I've got trivia up the wazoo about like video games and like weird franchises. But there's this the it's themed after like a World War II bunker, and like when you enter it, they say in Ukrainian "Slava Ukraina," which is like "Long live Ukraine," and then you say oh, I think it's "Glory to Ukraine," and then you're supposed to respond "Heroyam Slava," glory to the heroes. Uh, and if you speak in Russian there at all, they either like kick you out or they just like harass you. Uh, it's kind of like the same thing with like Chicago, and if you put like ketchup on a hot dog, they're not gonna
Mhm,
actually kick
mhm.
you out, but they're gonna make looks at you. But like all the decor in there is like World War II era like war stuff. Like they have just like guns and like typewriters on the wall that you're like allowed to like kind of pick up and take pictures with. Cool place.
It sounds cool. The entrance part sounds a little overly patriotic,
They're still
and,
technically at
well, I
war
mean, it's
with
important.
Russia,
Ukraine, I
so
think it's important. Yeah, they're still at war, so I think that's important, and also fascinating that you live in a place that sometimes seems to be in the middle of a lot of
yeah,
geopolitical
I don't know
tensions.
how that happens.
How did that happen?
Well, China, I ended up there because I was between joining the military and going to China, and the military rejected me, so I went to China to learn kung fu, and then teaching was like it was the path of least resistance, and then Ukraine. My wife's Ukrainian. Uh, Definitely like
That's a great
worth
reason.
checking out the place where she grew up. Kind of like learning the culture, and I enjoy the food. Got to meet a lot of her family.
Yeah, that's a perfect reason to live in Ukraine.
Yeah, as opposed to like alternative reasons where there's like a lot of the expats. It's the same thing with China, like especially the guys. Oh, I love the like Asian women, or I love the beautiful Ukrainian women. Oh God.
Yeah, the expat culture is quite interesting, but something I wanna circle back to is you mentioned, like, the bar is in a
Mhm.
bunker or it's shaped like a bunker. This past weekend in Miami, we went to an art museum, similar to you, sometimes, like, short-term memory isn't great. The artist, which I feel like I should look up, he basically, uh, he grew up in Cuba, and so similar with, like, the World War II bunkers, like, the idea of the bunker isolates people and protects people and keeps people away from each
Mhm.
other. So, a lot of his art was inspired by, like, what if we, like, opened up the World War II bunkers and created a space for, like, community and conversations, like, turning the idea of the bunker on its head, uh, versus something that, like, isolates people from each other. Like, a lot of his art was and it was like it wasn't maybe the actual bunker, it was like the brutalistic style of the
Mhm.
bunker that he like brought into his art that he also then like opened up for people. He's a Cuban artist. Um and his art. He's living in Spain now, I believe, but it was
Still living
really
artist.
cool. Yeah, still
Mhm.
living artist. This was his first time showing in the United States in this gallery that Gabe organized for us to see.
I think your audio is okay.
Did
No, you're good. I can hear you.
okay. So I just liked the idea of taking something that was, supposed to keep people apart or is supposed to scare
Hmm.
people from other people, right? Like the idea of the bunker is like somebody that's different than you is coming to get
Hmm.
you. You need to protect yourself, obviously, and more, it serves purposes, and we're never going to get away from that military war, world powers. Like we can't get away from that. But I really like how art can deconstruct it and like bring something, like think of a space that turn a space on its head and really around the idea of like community and bringing people
Hmm.
together and having conversations in something that's obviously going to start a conversation, right? Like a bunker that is used for war is now a place for to like have a conversation about probably these things and bringing people together. So I really enjoyed that
It's always an
that
interesting
like learning
it's always
that.
an interesting thing to me with like the whole a picture is worth 1,000 words, but like how many of those words are meant to be from people talking to each other about it versus like the artist, trying to explore their own psyche. Like there is very much a lot of like ego that artists put into that some artists put into like their work, but then on the other hand, uh it's also their right to do that. No.
Yes, so and you know what I think is, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? And I think it depends on the artist, obviously, and the reason they're creating art in the first place. But I think this is actually something I talked about with Gabe on Monday after we'd seen some of the museums or this idea around art, and we're seeing all the digital art popping up in the blockchain world and NFTs
Mhm.
and all these, like art was just like a big topic, and it's a big topic in crypto right now. But as much as the artist can want to make you experience something, they actually have no control
Mhm.
over that, right? And they have and like, or maybe we talked about this they watched a movie through the movie club, and at first, like alone, Gabe had thought like this isn't good, and then when everybody brought their experiences to the conversation, like it and all the things they saw that other people didn't see, it turned out like actually being a really great movie. So I think as much as you experience art alone, like when we were walking around the Rubel gallery, I walked around most of it alone, every now and then connecting with people. And like most of the thematic things that came in and out of my brain were totally my experiences, experiencing that art or moving from piece to piece and thinking about the different feelings that were coming up or the
Mhm.
different thoughts that were coming up. But then it's fun to discuss it with other people. And even Eddie was like, I was talking about like the difference between minimalism and extravagance, which I think you see that a lot in
Mhm.
art. There's like not a lot of in between. There's either like you're a minimalist and your space is clean and your art is clean, or you're like being avant garde and it's like about the extravagance to like
Or the world is
prove a point.
cubes and strings and splatters of paint on everything.
Exactly. Exactly. And then Eddie was like, "Oh, I wish you would have brought that up to me." But when I was experiencing the art myself, like the thematic things I was thinking were like my processing of being in front of physical art, which was also super moving for me because this whole pandemic has been so
Mhm.
virtual. And we live in the virtual and we work in the virtual and crypto is virtual, like internet money is virtual. And like to be in front of something physical, especially the pieces that are like, cover entire walls and just like remind me I'm like this little speck in the
Mhm.
world in a way. I really enjoy that feeling. So I really enjoyed it, and it's just yeah. But at the end though, like my your experiences with art is totally different than somebody else. A lot of them had the like full explanations next to it of like what the artist was
Mhm.
critiquing, and so it was kind of fun to look at the piece, go and look at what the artist was trying to communicate, which could have just been as simple as like there was this woman named Cecil or Cecily Brown. I don't know how to say how she pronounces her first name, but there's like one that was just like all genitalia.
Dicks, because drawing
She was
dicks
just
is
like,
fun.
she's like, I just want we all talked about it. She's like, I just wanted to create dicks. Like, I just wanted to create dicks. And it like wasn't like overtly
It's like
dicks,
that
I think,
scene
when
from
you first
it's
looked
like
at
that
it.
scene
But
from Superbad. It's like I just couldn't stop drawing dicks, and then one day I dropped my
yeah, and it's like,
notebook.
there's some And so there's like some pieces that were like clearly about like there was one about like the 2008 financial crisis, and then there was like some people like I just want to create this. So you see it everywhere, but your experience of it is totally personal, and then it is fun to share because then all of a sudden you have this new experience that you could almost
Mm,
re-experience if you can like picture the image in your head. And so like that's what I think is cool about experiencing things in a community, because you get to each bring things to light because all of our experiences are different and the artist actually does have no control over that. They have an
yeah,
influence. They have an influence on it if they decide to share, but also like I have lived a very different life than all those artists. So there's it's and I lived a different life than you and like everybody I was in the
mhm,
museum with. So like how could you possibly experiences are all filtered through what we are at that moment in time and what we're bringing to the
mhm.
table, right? So it's impossible for someone to completely impart what they want on
Last
me,
time,
if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. Last time I was in Florida, I went to a Salvador Dali museum. I fucking love Salvador Dali. Not just like his work, like which is in itself really just astounding, but just like his personality and like he's like peak ego also. He's up there next to like Van Gogh as far as like it's really nice to be up my own ass. You should check it out. um,
I feel like we glamorize that so much. I mean, obviously they're incredible artists and
mhm.
geniuses. But something else to do with Florida is this like Bitcoin conference is coming up in June, and it's like Chima, Tony Hawk, Michael Saylor,
I love Tony Hawk
like the,
showing up for
and
random
I'm like,
things. Everybody's like, "Hey,
yeah, he
whatever happened to
does.
Tony Hawk?"
And
He's
like
like, "I don't
Tony
know,
Hawk's a
man."
good time. Now I'm at a Bitcoin conference, but like this ego thing, um, I think we idol like not. I'm sorry, I'm overgeneralizing every time I say we. I think in
Mhm.
culture, I obviously respect obviously I'm like Salvador Dali and Van Gogh and like all these incredible artists are just like so superior. You have to respect and you have to like not judge the way they want to live their life, which is like I want to like in Jeff Bezos and all
Oh
these
no,
like
Jeff
people,
Bezos
right? Like
absolutely deserves all the judgment he gets
I'm
though, because
okay,
all these other
fair.
artists were
I
not
know.
making billions of dollars off of like the slave labor of their employees. So let's not put
Okay.
those guys together.
No. Okay, okay. So fine. I just think the idea of ego and worship
Mhm.
and like um
Idolization.
and yeah, and idolization, I'm very against idolization, I guess. So it like doesn't matter if it's like a thing like Burning Man where people are like, this is the most incredible art I've seen in the desert, and like Burning Man is the best community, or if it's like an artist or if it's like a billionaire. Like I think I mean, and this is just like a human nature thing, like we get whatever type of idol you like idolize. I just think it's a dangerous
Mhm.
habit. So I work hard to not idolize anything. I can like respect people and things. I can enjoy certain experiences. Um I can admire the way people got to where they are and the things they feel like they need to share with the world because of it. But I really hate the glamorization of like ego in
So
any
would you say
form.
it's more like the idolization of like they can do no wrong and everything that like they have no faults because they have transcended in this one avenue, and so worshiping and then anything else they do is like null at that point.
Yes, I think it's the lack of
Hmm.
critique
Yeah,
or
I
the lack
100%
of
agree.
like I think it's the lack of like the 360 view of a person and it being okay that that person's
Hmm.
imperfect and like that person also could be like I'm imperfect and it could almost like add more to the situation and then like getting away with all of their imperfections or us skirting it under the table for the people that we
Hmm.
idolize like
Oh,
when they do
especially
bad
especially
things
like the
like
horrible shit we let like some artists and like for like the music industry in particular. There's like a huge history of like insane abuse.
and like even with Alexander Wang, right? I think something came out about him being like a harasser and it's like I'm not saying like any of those other billionaires are or any of these artists are. I'm just saying like, um, you know, we try to put those people as also as this bucket that we're imperfect, that they are imperfect or their imperfections are null when like we are all incredibly imperfect and like
Speak for
accountability
yourself.
happens for the average person and I am very imperfect, But I just think it's like yeah, I don't know. I don't even though I'm a part of Mochi, I'm not into like cult and idolization. So we'll see.
Ironic place to be
Um,
then.
ironic place to be. Or I like to have a healthy disdain for it.
Mhm.
So I like to be mindful of the things and the people that I can recognize and respect greatness without having to like fanboy over Elon Musk.
Mhm.
You know, and like so many people I know are just like he is great. I mean, Tesla, you just mentioned the internet, you're getting like yes, 100%. But yeah, I can't get behind like worshiping him. And I know and just it seems like so many people in this world just like are so quick to worship every
Yeah,
genius. I don't know. Maybe it's just a weird
my
thing in
wife is
mine.
really all about Elon Musk. I think I definitely have too much of like the rose-colored glasses with Bernie Sanders. Uh, as far as like a politician goes, I think he's probably like the closest thing to like a perfect person. But like, I mean, he hasn't had a lot of like significant wins. He's like he's had some problems and stuff, but I generally kind of like gloss over them because just he was the unicorn that we refused to drink the blood of.
You would love this because you mentioned you like video games. I have to pull up the video game, but I grew up with four brothers and they're all gamers
Older,
pretty
younger.
much. I did three older,
Mhm.
one younger. The three older are definitely hardcore gamers.
You're like the opposite of me.
So
I have five younger sisters and one older brother.
big Catholic families, but the
Like roaches.
very exactly. My brothers are also into Bernie Sanders, especially my oldest brother. And Bernie Sanders apparently was on the Senate floor explaining like some ending of a video game or something, or like some storyline of a video game. I can send it to you. It's in like our siblings
Mhm.
chat. And so, like, obviously, that just made my brother love Bernie Sanders so much more because he
I
like
need
is
to know what game this is.
referencing some video game. Okay, let me if you give me a moment to pull up
No, go
my
for it.
phone, I can easily. Um,
Yeah, on the flip
so
side of a horrible politician bringing up video games, Hillary Clinton brought up she was part of the war against video games and violence in video games, and she cited Resident of Evil Creek, which was she was clearly trying to say Resident Evil, but like,
yeah,
man,
it's like she couldn't find one intern that was a male that was younger to make sure she doesn't mess up a video game,
well,
right?
I think it would like video games at that point were still just a kids thing, you know. Even
Maybe,
in
but okay,
a
so
lot of like the gaming industry, like Kotaku and IGN, they have a lot of people who are professional game reviewers who like I can't figure out the jump button. I don't know I don't know how to do difficulty. I don't know how to deal with anything that involves adversity whatsoever. Like, dude, then do something else.
that's an interesting segue too. I actually want to dig into that whole I don't know how to do anything if there's not a
Mhm.
little bit of adversity. But Bernie Sanders explains the ending of Neon Genesis
Oh, Evangelion.
Evangelion.
That's a wait,
And
the video game or the manga
yeah, sorry, Evangelion.
anime.
Oh, maybe it's manga. Sorry. So maybe it looks like a video
Uh
game
huh.
from the picture. But maybe it's manga because my brothers are also very much into that. My brother said Rune Factory 5. But yeah, there's a lot. So my brothers keep me kind of in that world because in the chat they'll just like talk about like who's joining this X, Y, and Z. And I used to watch my brothers play a lot of like the more difficult video games like Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft. But
Family's got good taste.
my skills did not go as far, and I was yeah there and like yeah I actually really enjoyed growing up with a bunch of brothers because like my brother showed me Daft Punk when I was
Oh, my
really
brother
young,
fucking
right?
loves
Like
Daft
they
Punk.
were older, so yeah, I was listening to Daft Punk like way earlier. Like I remember asking my brother to like burn me
Oh,
a CD,
back in that
right,
day,
with
nobody
Daft
from the
Punk
new
on it,
generation
and I thought I was
understands
so
what
cool.
burning CDs are.
I know, burning CDs, and actually that kind of goes along with the adversity, right? Like figuring out how to download the music, figuring out how to like burn the CD, writing something on it for
Back in the time of like
people,
LimeWire and
like all,
Napster.
yeah, and all that like physicalness. Like even my girlfriends, when I was the first to drive a car, and so like it was up to them to burn the
Mhm.
CDs for the car, right? And you write notes to people, and like it's different. And now if you can't, access a song instantly on a streaming service, like it's hard to get to music when there was so much more work or adversity that went into it or figuring it out. So like, yeah, people don't like to figure things out anymore. I feel
Mhm.
like as much.
I mean, yeah, we're definitely in the time of like instant gratification where it's got to be like immediate. The app needs to have like anything that takes longer than 10 seconds in like responsiveness when it comes to like any sort of app or like a website. It's like this is fucking garbage. Like it's a waste of my time. Why bother?
Exactly. Which is why, which is if you're into adversity, you work in crypto. if you're into, if you're into like clunky
There's
tech, you work in crypto. It is
something
getting
I was
much
wondering
better.
about. You mentioned like a lot of like NFTs kind of blowing up. Why are NFTs like currently blowing up? Is it just because like all of like
So
the Bitcoin and Ether prices are like shooting up? Is it?
there's definitely not one reason. It's funny because I think this was the first thing I thought about when I woke up this morning, which is like so tragic, which shows you like how much crypto is in my brain. But my next lesson in Shifai, which is the education program I run for women, was originally going to be on like lending and money markets and different protocols that allow you to
Mhm,
like put your money to work. But NFTs are blowing up, and so even my friends in like on the traditional financial world, like want to know about NFTs in terms of
mhm,
like an asset, which is cool. So we'll cover like all of the reasons. So it's just on my brain because I haven't spent a ton of time looking into NFTs, but I know I have to put together a presentation in like the
mhm.
next week and a half. So it's what I think about. But in crypto, a lot like it's very short hype cycles, and then it's not that it dies down, but it levels out and things mature, and it doesn't get less hypey, but like real stuff
Yeah,
becomes behind it. So this summer when DeFi first took off, or what we call decentralized finance, yield protocols or yield generating, and that what they called yield farming. It was like you supply capital to a new project, and there's some financial incentive. So you get crazy APY, so you get crazy interest generated onto your token that you supply, or you get their like governance token for their project, which could also increase in value if
and
more
like
people are
big
using
ones
the
were like
project. So there's
Waifu and
some
like
financial
Y
reason.
curve and stuff.
Y curve and
Yeah, there was a
sushi
lot of like
swap
there was a lot of
and like
futures trading
yam
and
and like all the
derivatives.
farm. Yeah, there's like all these farm things, right? So they're all being named after food. And so when Sushi Swap first came
Oh, they fucked
out,
over so
it
many
was
people.
like a fork on Uniswap. Yeah, and now they're actually doing really well. So if you just kind of held your money, you would have been fine, right? So I think there's also something to be learned there. But like with NFTs, we're just like yield farming is still a thing, and high interest rates are still a thing. And Binance Smart Chain is stealing a lot of these projects that are yield generating. There's like Pancake Swap, you can get like 1,000% APY, but it's on Binance Chain.
Mhm.
So you have to figure that out, which is my new thing is trying to figure out at least how I could interact with Binance Chain. So if I wanted to do something that's not as decentralized but generate yield, I could, and more so for the fact to teach people, because it's actually kind of quite cumbersome to figure out how to set up MetaMask and
Mhm.
put
Yeah,
MetaMask on a different
I
browser.
watched your
And
intro for that.
anyway, I digress.
It was really thorough. Uh,
I digressed a bit, but the whole thing with NFTs is that the platforms are ready, and you need okay, so also I don't think crypto is acknowledging how much Clubhouse has made NFTs a thing. So Clubhouse is this exclusive went from exclusive to non-exclusive app where it's just a chat room of just people that talk, and
mhm.
then people can listen and people can go up on stage and talk. And like there are a lot of artists started on Clubhouse because it was a very hyped San Francisco,
Mhm.
LA type
Sounds like an open
thing.
mic.
And so then you bring artists yeah, it's an open mic. And so it's kind of like a podcast in real time where you're hearing these conversations and getting many perspectives. And it's part garbage, part great, like all things are. So, not like all things are. Sorry, things that don't scale community, things that are just looking for the mass market and don't really think about community
Mhm.
as an important aspect. And you don't need the community to be gargantuan, is what I think like when you can't control like turns to be good and what comes to be
Mhm.
not so good about it or not so useful. Like not all the talks on there are like anything my brain should be spending time on, right? Like there's other ways for me to be listening to things that would actually like increase my knowledge. But there's so many stars that started on that, and then crypto people were on it too. And so like NFT got like is being talked about by like all these crazy pop stars and all these
Mhm.
artists, right? So we do have to acknowledge that that is a big part of it, like the which wasn't on purpose, but like the platform for artists to interact with crypto people to understand this like new digital paradigm is what I think was a big catalyst. But also, like, you only need a couple of artists that have a big name to sell something for some crazy price, like
Hmm.
43 ETH. Disclosure sold a song for 43 ETH. Like, that hurt, like, that doesn't hurt me because I think, like, yes, you got there first and you thought of it, but like, as somebody who works in the industry, just a little jealous of the fact that like you
Yeah.
make 43 ETH,
There's this one.
very
I
quickly,
think 50 Cent.
So
50 Cent sold he released one album in like the 2000s, and he allowed people to pay for it in Bitcoin. And he hadn't thought about it at all, and like he had gone bankrupt, and then he found like the Bitcoin that he made from that sale, and he had like $50 million just on the spot. It's like, oh, got my fucking money back.
good for 50 Cent. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not against that part of it, but what I'm trying to say in a long-winded form is that there's a
Hmm.
hype cycle. So I think we will see like
Yeah, I
NFTs have
think it's like a
exploded.
273
Um,
day like cycle of fluctuation in price.
right. And so I think then it leads to a terrible discourse because artists who didn't do it are
Hmm.
now mad and they only see the people like getting a quick buck and they don't understand the whole part of like digital scarcity or your ability for this, in the music world to always get royalties or in the art world if you wanted to
Well, on the
have
plus side, like
somebody like
riding off of that hype,
art.
people are continuously building infrastructure, like because of like the hype and interest that was generated in it. People they're getting investments, they're getting people, uh, they're getting new developers to like, oh, this is a new way that I can innovate on this, and this is gonna like make this better. Like, I think that is essentially how the ecosystem just kind of grows organically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like you see these things, they're a little hypey, they can be a little confusing, but there's people behind it. There's a whole ecosystem building and that already knows the
Hmm.
value because we've been here. And so
Y'all
we'll keep
hodls.
building and you have to like we hold those, you have to like see it and acknowledge it and it brings more interest to it. And like it's the difference between 2017 and today is that we're
Hmm.
ready for these things. And it might I don't it's not that I was thinking about this morning. It's not that it'll necessarily become less hypey, but like, things will like probably even keel out and it will be like the things that we imagine it for, like bringing newer artists to discovery or ability to have more financial freedom by not having a
Hmm.
middleman or cutting out this like gray area between like where the money goes and how it gets into the artist's pocket. And with the science fiction universe I was working on, it was all about actually proliferating fan fiction. So if you can always get royalties on your character that you draw or your story that you tell and it's
Hmm.
being remixed, like imagine how much more artists might not mind fan fiction if they are always kind of a part of
Hmm.
those narratives. So there's a lot of really cool things that can be done with like blockchain and digital art and whatnot. I think we're in like a hype thing and that's okay. I think it will like Sushi Swap is now like a
Hmm.
legitimate project, right? So some of these like things that were just like, also get rich quick, but also keep building. Like we'll see that in all of crypto. Were we necessarily ready for the eyes? Like, I'm not sure, but it's a really exciting time to be here, and it's a really great time to be getting people into this space now that we have the tech to
Yeah. So
support it. So I'm all
on that note, because so you do Shifai, and that's all about like bringing women into the crypto space, getting them like literate with like the crypto financial tools and how to like use assets and stuff. What would you say is like the biggest obstacle in getting people in either getting people into it or getting people to like adjust their risk preferences to like know that there's going to be like intrinsic value or like growing value as the crypto space gets more developed and more like robust.
I would say the biggest obstacle is just the onboarding part. So getting comfortable with like, using a crypto wallet and figuring out what a public address is and like sending that
Hmm.
first transaction is like it feels a little like
Well,
magical
because
almost,
also
or there's like a
right now also
underlying
gas
tension.
prices are insane.
Yeah, gas prices are insane. So and this is something that I've been needing to really figure out because when I started Shifai in like uh, early 2020, the original idea was that women would join Shifai and we would all donate between like $10 and $40. Or I mean, you can your upper end is your upper
Mhm.
end. It's a personal preference, but donate like every I would teach everyone how to get a stable coin, and then everyone would take the stable coin and they would
Would
send
you
it to
would
a
you like
Shifai
recommend like a
wallet,
DAO or
and then that
USDC or what?
so once again, it's a personal preference. Like for the sake of Shifai, we
Mhm.
used Dai, but if you want to put your money to work, your stable coins to work, you should always be looking at where they're
Mhm.
getting the best interest. So that's another thing in Shifai as well. I'm not like you must decentralize everything and use DAI as your stable coin. I'm like, here are your options. Here's the Gemini US dollar. Here's USDC. Here is
Mhm.
DAI. Here is, whatever one it was. And then it's up to you based on your risk profile and what you want to do with DeFi and how it fits into your financial plan to pick the coin and the project or the protocol where you can put it to work for you. I don't really like, for the purposes of Shifai, I don't mind like a centralized stable coin
Mhm.
for making money. Like that's not the point. It's for women to make money with Shifai. And then I think naturally through the course, because of the like in the beginning, here's an example. A few of the women in the Mochi Shifai cohort are coming from like the traditional financial world. And my friend works at Revolut and she bought crypto on Revolut. And I had told her, I had said in the Shifai lesson, like Revolut, PayPal, Robinhood are good if you just want exposure to the asset, but you cannot send it anywhere else. And so therefore you cannot use DeFi with the money that you have in um,
Mhm.
those types of applications. So, it, like, took, a month or 2, but then they're like, "Okay, so now I opened an account on Gemini." Like, the ones that were like, "I just want exposure," now that they're, like, really understanding the DeFi landscape are like, "Okay, now I wanna get it on Gemini, or through MetaMask, and then I wanna put it in MetaMask so I can get, like, other tokens on Uniswap." Right? So, you honestly like, the pitch doesn't have to be, like, decentralized
Mhm.
maximalist in the beginning, but, like, once you realize how limited you are by using certain platforms or only accessing certain tokens, that's when really, like, the whole like, it's not even like I have to sell it because I don't wanna push anything on anybody. I want people to know their options and make those choices. And then it's as soon as you wanna get exposure to more DeFi related tokens, you're naturally gonna have to use a MetaMask or some other Web3 enabled wallet to access those applications, and so, like,
Mhm.
it sells itself.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to also like because I do stuff like kind of around crypto. I'm considering like trying to get my wife to like learn about the stuff because she's also interested in like finance stuff and like just making sure that she's maximizing her like financial potential. And like this is definitely like a burgeoning thing that has a lot of like room for growth. Just also just working out in my mind how to sell that.
No, tell her to come to I think if she attended a Shi-Fi lesson, I'm only saying this because this is my 3rd cohort, so I'm always nervous with each new cohort that, like, they're not gonna like the content or they're expecting something more advanced or, in some way it's not gonna resonate. Like, I still have that
Mhm.
imposter syndrome, but now that I've started to do my 3rd one, like, whether you're brand new to crypto or you're sort of in crypto, like, the responses of the women feeling so empowered and feeling like the content is like poignant and relevant and not cumbersome. Like I think I found a niche of being able to communicate these concepts into something relatable. And I don't really I also like talk about my crypto mishaps or my journey and like I'm trying to just make it like you're talking to a friend. I'm not trying to be holier than thou or
Mhm.
like I'm above you because I've been in crypto since 2017. Like I never want to be that type of talking head. I just want to be like your friend, like teaching you about these things that I know and um the feedback I keep getting, like, across the board is that, like, they enjoy the
How many people do you
session,
usually aim
so
for in a cohort?
maybe just, like okay, so it's funny because it's sort of there's no exact,
Mhm.
like, method yet, so, first cohort last year was friends in consensus that were women not working necessarily in DeFi to kind of, like, pilot out, like, "Do you like the content? Am I doing this in a good way?" And the second one kind of happened serendipitously through Mochi, where Gabe was like, "Hey, I think a lot of women in Mochi would benefit from learning about DeFi, and it could actually help you if you presented these lessons. So would you mind like starting it?" And it was actually kind of like a kick I needed in a way because it really gave me a lot of confidence teaching brand new people to crypto that I'm doing something right and I'm doing
Mhm.
something that's needed. And it's not just my friends and consensus that support me and likes the content too. So I'm doing that for Mochi. And then I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I should just invite all my girlfriends who've been asking me about this. So it's kind of like a mix of like my friends and Mochi friends. And it's really fun because they're all like everything's new. So
Mhm.
they're like, this is great. So it's also like a very confidence boosting thing. And then at the same time, I just put out application on Twitter and on the Shifai website and just like through social channels without like a bunch of promotion, like opening up a third Shifai cohort, apply today. And we got over 40
Nice.
responses. And it's incredible. There's women from Iran, Egypt, India, Germany, the
Damn.
UK, San Francisco, yeah, there was a woman that joined my first session on Monday that she was up at 3 a.m. in Egypt, and like I can't tell you how that makes me feel just to know that like the amount that people want to feel like they can make these choices and engage in this space, and like that I can bring that globally. Like that wasn't on purpose necessarily, right? So I selected everybody into that cohort because naturally I felt like people would self-select out. So if I share the different types of projects we're going to go over and you're way more advanced and you're hoping it was more like of an
Mhm.
investment club, then maybe that's not for you. But that's not to say Shifai can't become that in the future. I'm just growing out
Mhm.
this community now by my whole thing is like I'm giving you the foundational projects, and then I'm going to give you the information and the power and the knowledge to be able to evaluate more advanced DeFi related things. And so that's kind of where I start. And then I'm hoping there will be a time for like the people that really want to like cut their teeth on, let's say, yield farming or something, that want to create like a subgroup. So, but this is my third one and we're starting at the beginning. And the whole point is that there's not necessarily a way yet. I've just been kind of serendipitously, while also putting out the application was like more structured.
Mhm.
But, I'm kind of like, as the opportunities arise to start them, I will do it. But now I'm definitely like at capacity of like I have a day job too, and I'm an extrovert, so like I know if I like locked myself in a room and didn't have a social life, I could like crush
Mhm.
like the game. But I do really appreciate like my time with people and like relationships in this world, because that's what it all comes down to at the end, is what matters. And so I try to invest in that as well. So I think now I'm at capacity with these two cohorts, but I'm up to about 60-ish women
Mhm.
that I'm educating. Um, but I have a hard time saying no to new people. But now that crypto is blowing up, right? Like every dinner I go to, every meeting where I meet somebody new, and my friends are like, Maggie works in crypto. It's like, like teach me.
That's
So
awesome.
Shifai also came at like an interesting time. Like I launched it during the pandemic. I wrote this email to my friends when I first launched it, like this may fail and this may not be the best time to be starting something or to be announcing this publicly, but then there's also no better time to be letting people know about their financial
Mhm.
alternatives than in an infrastructure and a government and the bank system that
That
has like
continues to
failed
fail,
and is
repeatedly
still
fails.
to fail
Mhm.
millions of people, right? So I was trying to be sensitive to the fact that like at the beginning of the pandemic, like it's not great to be like I'm unaffected in the way that I can do this, but at the same time like letting people know that I'm doing this because I want people to be a
Mhm.
little bit more protected the next time this happens, especially women. Because women have been like the most financially, they've been leaving the job force. Like we're there at home, like taking care of kids. Like they're just getting pushed out of the job place during this. And so like I think that makes like my
Mhm.
mission even more critical. So yeah, and then like everything in crypto is doing pretty well. So it feels like my timing was
Pretty spot
universally
on.
good. So I'm like grateful for whatever in the world I'm sorry, I shouldn't say caused it, but like grateful that crypto's doing no, but grateful that like crypto's doing well, and like I kind of put myself out there. Like it was a risk. I'm not very I like Shifai is something I started entirely on my own, and that's like the first time I've really done that. So I'm grateful that that the crypto stuff is lining
Mhm.
up as well, and that I took the risk. I think that's what I'm grateful that I took the risk and put myself out there, and I'm continuing to put myself out there, because it's pushing me in a lot of important ways, uh, both like in my career and in like my personal growth, and and my hope that I'm impacting the world, even if it's
Hmm.
only 60 women, in some positive way that I
Just
hadn't
on the
been
note of like
before.
also introducing women to different crypto assets, have you do you know anything about the women of crypto art? I think it's like Woka or something. I know they
No, but that
yeah, they have a
sounds
Discord.
awesome.
They a lot of their mission is like trying to get women into like the financial world of like investing in like purchasing NFTs and getting them like interested in the art world because a lot of like the art world right now is also still congested with like a lot of guys who are who already had their toes dipped in with like the other crypto bros.
Sounds like the world's just congested in men,
Too
is what
many
we're trying to
men.
say.
Too many
No, I'm kidding.
goddamn men.
Too many men. Too many men. No, we love men. But actually, no, and I would love to meet them. I would love to join that
Oh
Discord.
yeah,
So if you have the link, it would be great to let them know about
another
Shifai.
one
And
where I
what
first
I
heard of
want to do.
that group is with the Whip meetup, WIP. It's they I think they do. I don't know if they're still doing the weekly meetups. I'm actually gonna check whether or not they're doing them tomorrow. But they do them like every Thursday, and it's just like a bunch of different like crypto projects, different crypto artists, musicians, and stuff. They all meet up in crypto voxels and just like talk about projects, things they've been working on. There was the creator of like that one. I can't remember what the art. He's a pretty like well-known art creator. He creates a lot of like these 3D art NFTs. Um, they're really cool, really kind of gross and disgusting, but like they're pretty awesome. He showcased a lot of his work there too.
So you know what's funny is I just got a new computer, and so Crypto Voxels was a little hard
Hmm.
for my old computer, but I totally um like made this the Mega Max so I can do all of the
Dope.
cool
Yeah,
things on it because
I've been looking at
I
building a
got my
PC too, and I'm kind of freaked out about specs and stuff.
I'm not building a PC, but I just have a Mac that won't die on me for trying to
Hmm.
enter virtual worlds. But one of my brothers has built multiple computers, so because he's the gamer. And I know Gabe built one as well, but I'm sure my brother would be happy to nerd out with you on building PCs. He has like a room dedicated in his very tiny apartment to his PC, so you can tell how
Hmm.
important that is to him. But and I think any and I think seeing art and this weekend and I've been reflecting on like the creative process. I really like writing and I try to journal in the morning and it doesn't have to be about anything specific. I actually have this book right here called The
Hmm.
Artist's Way. And it's written by Julia Cameron and she just like talks about the ways to like bring creativity back into your life. And I got it last year, like before in 2019, I just decided I need to like engage more with creative hobbies that I hadn't previously been doing before. And actually, like Shifai came out of when I started that. So, like, just like opening up my
Hmm.
brain a little bit more. But, I still feel like I'm in a very heavy production mode. Like Shifai is production oriented. But the creativity, I think if you're building a gaming PC, like that's creative, right? I mean, you may be following something, but you have to make all the choices and you have to like use your hands and it's physical. And I like anything that
Hmm.
requires that.
Should build
So
Legos,
I'm trying to think of ways it might not
Lego
build
sets, and
Legos
Gundams.
exactly. You know, the artist that we saw this weekend too, the same one that is opening up the
Hmm.
bunkers, put Legos in his art because he grew up in Cuba, and so he didn't
Hmm.
have access to Legos. So some of his art incorporates like play and also the things he wish he
Hmm.
had access to. Um, so I'm all about like figuring out ways to at least take your brain to a different place, which I think creativity, building something, getting off our screens is like uh, a thing. Well, then you can just enjoy your other
Hmm.
screen once it's done.
So, kind of transitioning from like the discussion about like Shifa and stuff. So it is Women's History Month, and again, uh, sorry for missing out on like doing Black History Month past month. But so with like Women's History Month, something that was brought to my attention in Ukraine, they actually celebrate Women's Day on March 8th with like women have like the day off, and that's interesting because like I barely knew that Women's Day existed in the U.S. at all. And in China, they also like celebrate Women's Day, Teachers Day, Parents Day, and stuff. I don't think they get days off, but like yeah. So who would you say are some of you? You say you don't like to idolize figures, but do you have any like big like female role models, either historically or that are alive today?
Most of my female idols historically are like from the music industry, right? So I grew up
Hmm.
singing and dancing. So um like my idols were all basically when I was little, like entertainment focused. So in the tap world, it would be somebody like Dormisha Sumbri Edwards, who is a really famous female black tap dancer. And I would get to in the tap world, you get to take and Diane, oh, I can't believe her last name's forgoing me. But like in the tap world, it, like you got to actually kind of meet your idols.
That's cool.
So we would go to these conferences and you would take, yeah, you would take from like the best in class. She goes by Lady Di. I feel really bad because she's like the queen and they would like sign your tap shoes. But like my whole world growing up was like dance and music based and like Broadway shows, like Broadway musical artists, like that was what I was going to be. So I think in general though that like actually brings a lot of strong female women into your life or like women
Hmm.
commanding a stage, right? So that like ability to go up on stage and command it is where I think a lot of like my innate leadership skills come from because like it's something I like enjoyed more than anything in the world. And my biggest female influence when I was younger was actually my musical teacher. When we moved to Chicago, her name was Mrs. DePrima. She immediately like found me and my brothers. She actually followed my mom home to tell her like all of your kids can sing. Like me and my brothers could sing. At least at the time it was my three older brothers, and like they all need to be singing with her, and especially me. And then her daughters both went to Northwestern University. One was an actress. One was a biology major, but was like a really big at my dance studio and was a dancer. And so like since the fourth grade, like I was going to Northwestern. I was going to be like Mrs. DePrima's daughters, and Mrs. D was like the most influential person in my entire life as a female. She worked at the Catholic high school in a volunteer capacity and would put on this show called Street Scenes, which had no like no speaking parts. It was all songs against a theme, and each number had like a different show part, singing and dancing that related to the
Hmm.
theme. And one year she did one on books, and it was like incredible. My brother got to be in it as James Bond. I was
Oh
too
yeah,
young
James
at the
Bond's
time,
based on a book. I forgot about that.
but and so she would tell us how like she just was like the like I loved her so much. Like I wanted to and I loved performing so much and she was a single woman actually and she was a bit older and like she was like the first I think I'm going down a little bit of a different path, but like she inspired me, she believed in me and like I think like and she created these shows. She said she would dream about them and then like the costumes like she thought of the costumes, she thought of the songs, she thought of the set. Like her brain was so magical and then like she would do this as volunteer and this show would be used as funds to raise money for Catholic school, right? So like she was just like an icon to me in that way
That's awesome.
because she had this yeah incredibly creative brain and then she believed in me and I think there's like a lot of that importance as a young person to have somebody outside of your family who like believes in you and loves you and like sets you on that like path
Hmm.
for life, right? Like she set me on the path like I need to do well in school because I want to go to Northwestern and I also want to be an amazing performer, so like I have to take all these dance classes and music classes and perform and also get good grades. So like she was a big icon and then I think like Cher is obviously a big icon. She just has like all these one liners like like Joni Mitchell. She's also like all these female artists. It's like I think it goes back down to like how
Oh
important
yeah.
artists are because they kind of buck the system. And then you have like as I get a bit older, it's like Sally Krawcheck is a really important female banker that started Ellevest, and she um, is like an icon for a lot of young women in New York and in like the financial world. And I'm just always impressed by women that have their own businesses. And then like in my daily life, I think we live in such a cool era. Like all of my friends are badasses and like entrepreneurs or working in crypto or starting their own companies or just like really good at what they do. So I think that's probably a very different world for women my age to be in. Like it's not just your one friend who's still working. Like a lot of my friends still work and are
Yeah, it's
inspiring.
definitely like a great thing now that like I don't know how far back we have to really go for like the only thing women really would aspire to is just like be a great mother, be beautiful, you know, and like we've gotten so far away from that. It's just like, you know, there are still the, you know, the frustrating obstacles of, you know, the people who make the decisions about whether or not you are able to pursue that. But like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of there's a lot of like dope shit that like a lot. I think for me, I was always in like the space where I was always like one of the smart kids in class. I was always like one of the smart ass kids too, and I was a kind of a clown. But at the same time, like in almost all of my classes, every grade, every school I went to, like the smartest people in the classes were always the girls. Uh, and so like when like people would talk to me about like, oh, STEM is specifically for men, STEM, like a lot of these different disciplines, like these are all dominated by men. Like I don't understand how this is possible. Everybody in my fucking class, every one of the smartest people I know is a chick. So
Yeah, I think it's
mhm,
deeply socialized. So, um, you know, actually, yeah, and my friends who come from other countries where like women are more STEM oriented, like they say because they knew that their identity or their race was attached to being good in
mhm,
school and STEM, they were more confident than probably women in like America, where it's like, oh, women are really good at reading and writing and home ec. But in countries where it's just like we're all good at math
mhm.
because this is like our thing, like they like she's like, I went into every test knowing I was good, like knowing I was good because of like my race or my identity.
Huh.
So hopefully we can change that. But going back to your question on women and like when what year was it when all this came in? So some fun facts about things a woman couldn't do in 1971: get a credit card in her own name, be guaranteed that they would not get fired for getting
Mhm.
pregnant, serve on a jury, fight on the front lines, get an Ivy League education, take legal action against workplace sexual harassment. I mean, still, like, I'm sure we can do that today, but
Yeah.
HR is a sketchy part of the business. Decide not to have sex with their husband, obtain health insurance at the same monetary rate as a man, and take the birth control pill in the United States. So that's
Mhm.
not long ago at all. Like it's I mean, it's great to see the pace that like liberation is happening, but like think of all of the incredible brains and
Yeah.
creativity and
It's
uh things we've missed out on. Oh my gosh, and Ruth
oh,
Bader Ginsburg. I feel like we
notorious
just need to shout
RGB,
to her as like
RBG. Excuse me.
the notorious. Like she is an she is an icon, and she like without her, like we might not be. That's like a big statement, but this conversation
Yeah.
might even be different. So, just like it's crazy though that because there was so few women allowed to reach certain statuses that means my our pool is so limited, which is not true. Like the first like in the Hidden Figures movie about
Oh
the
yeah,
women that like
Katherine Johnson and
launched things into
yeah.
space. But we don't learn about that in school, right? Like I didn't go to school in in political history or science history and
We
learn
also
about
don't learn about
women,
like
right?
Tulsa
So,
getting firebombed and like all the other fucked up things are the
oh,
people of or the government specifically has done in the states, specifically often to minorities and to women.
yeah, I feel like I was kind of rigged now when I'm thinking back on like my US
Hmm.
political history. So it's something like I'm actively aware of and want to make sure that I'm like taking time to learn all the right things and listen because
Yeah, there's so much
and like
correcting of the things
you
that
know
we learned.
I would never send my kids. Yeah, and I would never send my kids to like I don't know, how would you even control that as a parent though, like the curriculum of the public
Hmm.
school, right? I guess you just have to take the
To like
responsibility
look
to
through
do it
the
in your
books
home,
and shit.
like I'm sure minorities have been doing forever. You know, like I think it's like minorities have obviously been telling the right history to their children forever outside of school, so I guess that's like on us to make sure that we continue to do because you can't always have that control of like the
Hmm.
information they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a frequent conversation like I have with my wife. We have no plans yet to have a kid, but like we the hypothetical of if we had a kid, like what would we want them to learn? How would we want them to be like raised? There's just so much of like correction of the ways we were raised, the ways we were educated, what we were educated in. Uh, that like it's just insane how much the last generation got wrong. But I'm sure like the next generation is gonna say the same thing about us, you know. Uh, but
because we're
I
imperfect.
guess.
No, but I actually, I think that's super important. And um, shoot, there was something I was thinking about, but keep going
I
and
think
maybe it'll
it's
come back to me.
really like one of the big hallmarks, I would say, with our generation, at least in my mind. I might be wrong about this. Is just like we are just so much more radically self-aware of privilege, of oppression, of like the larger world beyond like our neighborhood or what we see on like Fox News or on CNN. You know, I mean, we live in bubbles on
So,
Facebook, but at the same time, we still have way more opportunity to correct the fucked up things that we've learned growing up.
yes, and here was what I was going to say. I think that, people are, you see the backlash against, rewriting history or
Hmm.
reparations or giving Native Americans back their land or like, what were the British colonizing everybody? And at one point, wasn't every part of this world is partially colonized by war and
Most of the world.
bloodshed and force, most of the world, right? So, but like I also think for me, and I try to talk to this about some of my friends, like, isn't it like a very humbling experience to acknowledge how flawed and terrible that was? And you can say, like, at least like I'm white, right? Okay, so my ancestors were wrong in the way things did. And like we have this chance to correct it and have these conversations instead of like totally sweeping it under the bus and being like that was the past. Like, imagine like living in that type of like forgiveness, like, by acknowledging it,
Yeah, but a
like,
lot of
that
people
we
don't
can
like
live
saying
in as
sorry.
a society. Yeah, I
Such a
know.
hard thing to get some people to say
Um,
sorry, especially if they don't feel like they personally did something. It's really hard to get people to own up to like personal failings that might not necessarily have been their personal failings.
yes, and I agree. I mean, I don't agree with that. I mean, I can see it, right? Because there is social media and not everybody has the same opinions as me, but like you walk, like all you have to do is listen to like be around people whose lives, people of color whose lives are like completely different place because of the fact that like there are like my friend's significant other like had to teach his son not to put his hand in his pockets like walking around the streets of
Hmm.
certain parts of New York because like if you pull them out too quickly like you could get shot like the fact that that is a story means that like we have to fix it and we are partially responsible for the system, like no matter who we are, and like it's okay to acknowledge that and like try to do
Hmm.
better. And it's funny. I also think I don't know if you've noticed this as well. Like we used to grow up. I mean, we still many people believe like politics is something for the home. Politics causes problems within the family. Not mine per se, but like we still have this world where like don't talk
Politics
about
or
politics
religion.
because it might
Yeah.
impact your work or you getting a job. Politics or religion, right? And I'm like, maybe if I'm in crypto now, like I am like, and I really I do not like. Sorry, I am saddened by girlfriends who say they still won't post about things going on because of the way they're perceived, like the peacekeeping they need to
Hmm.
do of their image, the ability that they can't have a different opinion so everybody likes them, so they're likable, is like just like you haven't done the work. And so like I will post everything and I am like so over like politics like is so like by not talking about politics, you're letting people have so much say and like your every part of your life, like your
Hmm.
taxes, your well-being, like, all of this is politics. Like all of this is shaped by politics. So like politics is everywhere.
Yeah.
Like working on a global currency is politics.
I mean, I think that
It's
just
just
it comes down to like buzzwords, and when you're trying when it sounds like you're trying to like it sounds like you're trying to start a fight when you mention Republicans Democrats. It's just like how it is. And then you mentioned the word taxes. Everybody's like, oh, we are now on a battleground. We are fighting now or something.
sure. And that's where I don't necessarily approach it as that, but it's about humans and humans are harmed
Hmm.
and I'll always be on the side of making this world better for humans. And I live in New York City and you see destitute humans every single day. And I will never not be on the side of
which is
humans.
interesting
So I
because
think that's where it comes
most
to me.
Republicans and Democrats will agree on like at least 60 to 70% of policy when you're talking about just like how to solve an issue. Like most people will agree on common sense gun reform, on stop sending money to Saudi Arabia, on stop starting endless wars, on like we should have health care. Most people agree with that. Uh, and it's just when you get into like the larger political discussion of like who has power, that's definitely when it gets much more contentious. It's the same thing with like religion. Most people will agree that like it's understandable why we shouldn't kill each other. We have like a general sense of morality, why you shouldn't steal, why you should respect life. But then you get into like the nitty gritty of like the Christian heaven and Christian like the commandments versus the pillars of Islam versus like the sutras. Like when you get into too much, we own this terminology and we own this conversation. Then like I think that's when people start having a lot more of these like bumping elbows moments.
Yeah, and that's where nuance and systems thinking and realizing what is tied to what is important. Ashoka and actually Gabe is also, I think, very good at like not taking things at face values or like blanket statements and words and like things like that. Like they can say, like Biden's not necessarily any better right now than like past leaders,
No,
right?
not at
And
all.
like we can understand that and and the nuances of all of this is important. And I think that's like one reason I really do like the Mochi community is like so many perspectives and so many thoughtful perspectives are brought into my life. And I think it and then it boils down to like people are nuanced, like right, we're all nuanced and the nitty gritty is the tough stuff. And that's why we have to be careful with the big stuff. And actually, I was having this moment because of the art museum. Like, okay, so Donald Trump says crazy things, gets censored, and then crypto's like, let's not
Censored.
censor anybody. And you're like, censored. Yeah, okay, so exactly. So here we are might agree on this. Like, Donald Trump will never be censored because he's a billionaire. Billionaires aren't censorable
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. Artists
Hmm.
are censorable. Like, if we start censoring somewhere, and I'm not saying all censorship is wrong, like I'm not the expert, but like who's going to get harmed? We don't think about the artists who are making a political statement with their
Hmm.
painting on like the financial crisis of 2008. So every time we want to jump on a buzzword bandwagon of something we might think is good because it's so easy to capitalize on the moment of Donald Trump saying these like neurotic things, like we are playing and like are we playing into their hands? Like do they want the arts to be
In most
censored?
cases, yeah, we are
So
often playing into their hands.
right. So I think that I mean it all comes back to this day in the art museum. It's I think I struggle with like okay like when I can have a and like my perspective on censorship is probably like more privileged than others, right? Like I'm like don't maybe we don't censor. I'm not the expert. Like I'm saying, I'm not saying we shouldn't censor Donald Trump, but like I'm starting to think we shouldn't because it can harm. It's actually going to just open the doorway to harm the people, to harm the type of critique that we need in this world. But
Yeah.
at the same time, when like something like that is happening, I'm not a person of color, and I'm not somebody who's greatly harmed by the crazy shit Donald Trump does. So then I also see a reason that we need to
Hmm.
protect people, right? So it's just like this super gray, super nuanced, like super systems mind needed to understand like how all this works. But I like it's all these different things are starting to click for me that might have not been in the moment because like the world was so crazy staring at screen for 12 months and now this man is like
Yeah.
harming it like actively harms people with his works.
I think the big thing to me is like understanding the what censorship is, because like a lot of what's been happening with like right wing pundits, Trump, a lot of like politicians who supported Trump, they're not being censored, they're being deplatformed, which is a completely different thing, because they're not being forced to stop talking. They're just saying you can't talk on our you can't use our microphone, which is perfectly legal. That's what the whole market thing is supposed to be about. Like I'm not a big fan of like unregulated market forces. But at the same time, like that's how free speech works. Like we have the right to give you the microphone, but we also have the right to say no, you can't use our microphone.
Yes, exactly. So I actually totally agree that like a platform has rules, and I actually think it's really important for platforms to understand how to
Yeah, it's
moderate
upsetting when
content.
they
And so I
don't
totally
follow the
agree.
same
I think
rules
it's
for
totally
different levels of people. But yeah, sorry, go on.
right. And what's silly is like people thinking, yeah, I agree. I remember people being like, it's like Donald Trump is actually censored. Like, absolutely not. And like, oh my gosh, like people are like, like white, sorry, white, really rich men in VC. Like Paul Graham's afraid of like being canceled. Like, stop it. Like, that's your
Yeah.
biggest fear. Like, wow, oh my gosh, let me play my tiny violin for you. Like, absolutely not. And like, it's funny because like I never worry about being canceled. Like, like publicly, like be a good person. Like, I don't know. And like, you're not like if you're a super wealthy, rich white man, you're never actually getting censored or actually being canceled. Like when Donald, all the stuff happened with Donald Trump and Twitter, he actually always had like the White House um,
Yeah.
microphone, right? So I totally agree with you. And so I think in that sense, like platforms do have a right to have rules. And I do think you can go find another platform. I do see the risk of things being moved to the edges. Like I understand all the problems, but yeah, I'm totally
But it's the
with
same
you
thing
on
though.
that.
It's the
I
same
just
thing
think
on the
if
other
we try
side
to
though
like
with like the bakehouse that decides not to like bake a cake for a gay couple. They have the right to do that. They have the right to say no and refuse service. But then people also have the right to say fuck you for not doing this. We're not going to keep you like in business because we're just not gonna support you. We're not gonna buy your shit.
you know what I was thinking would be a great app? I thought was thinking this the other day. An app that like you could go into a store and like it would immediately tell you if like the owners were racist or sexist or had like bad business practices. Like you could like scan it or you could like put in the name and immediately find out if that business is something
Quick, what
you
would be
want
what
to
would
give
be a
money
name for
to.
this app?
Because you're right. Like I think like
I'm thinking
a name for
soapbox.
this app. Um, it's
Hmm.
value aligned, right? It's like the money and value and like like every financial choice we make is supporting
Yeah,
something. It's like a show of our
which is why
value, right?
boycotts are an
So
important part of democracy.
and like exactly. And so and that's what I think like all these things should exist, but it's on you as the person that's saying I support this with my dollar in some way to sort of know, but it's over like we have so much
Hmm.
information to keep track of. What if there was just an app that told you like they have they have factories in this space or like a multitude of criteria, and if you want to spend your money there, it's like people who ethically don't do
Hmm.
fast fashion, right? Like that is the choice they're making and that's a little bit easier to find, but like some of these things during Black Lives Matter, like the woman that runs Reformation is apparently had racist business practices, and like obviously in the moment like you're seeing all these businesses like apologize and do all these things, and it's like, well, are they following up on their
Hmm.
promises? Like I don't have to spend my money at Reformation. So, and but like it might have 6 months might have passed and I might have forgot that they were racist because like in like all the things going on, right? So I would like an app that would help me make sure I'm spending money at
I
places
think
that treat people
I think my
ethically
question with
and
that app
fairly.
though would be like, who is it marketing itself towards? Because the people who actually care would already have like kind of done their research, I guess. Like people who are trying to avoid like unethically sourced foods or unethically sourced like mica in cosmetics and stuff. Like they're already kind of doing their research, and like there are places online that already kind of source that information. Uh, if anything, I would worry that it would be kind of like polarizing and like I'm going to support this place specifically because it doesn't like black people or specifically because. But then you can also shame. But then you can also shame
Oh,
them for going there and like saying like, oh yeah, that's the reason you went. Like I think that's one of the things that definitely needs to happen. Not lynchings, but kind of like social like you get the social timeout because you are clearly just a detriment to society. The things that you're saying are horrible. Like where people like lose their jobs for saying racist shit or for like accosting people over like silly political issues on like the on the subway. Like yeah, those people should lose their job. That's kind of like that's the capitalist, that's the market response to you being a shitty person in society.
yeah, I actually it's funny because you mentioned that because Cuomo like
Oh
is now
yeah.
like coming up with a section second sexual harassment. And so
Which to me is still far less than like him
somebody
hiding
had come,
hiding the counts with COVID.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the people dying in the nursing homes. I know. It's like, don't be a shit person. Like, don't be shitty. Like, it's funny. Like, somebody brought up to me, like an older person, like, well, JFK had, women and Bill Clinton, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, so we let it slide back then, but like now is here and now, and all he had to do was not harass somebody or hide numbers or be a shitty person. Like, we know your job is tough and when it comes to the reporting the numbers, like people are dying left and right. Like there's no reason to hide it. It's like doesn't make
I,
you
th-
like I don't know,
I
it's
think
like
that's
at
why
that
cancel
point, but
culture is something that scares.
harassment, like
I
I
think that's
can't get
why
behind
cancel
it.
culture scares like the elites, like the wealthy people, because like they're older. They came from a time when it was okay, and they're worried that somebody has some sort of recording or some sort of like testimonial that's going to like bring like we know that we're being recorded like regularly. We know like when we are on social media that it is there kind of forever. I mean, yes, we will have posted like that stupid thing when we were like on still on MySpace or whatever. But like their histories are a lot more like ambiguously recorded, you know? And so that's what spooks them.
That's that's very true. And and even like I said dumb stuff on social media with my friends, but I never said anything like mean or cruel or hateful
Well, you're one of the
or
good ones.
something like, like that just didn't cross my mind. I don't think it did. Like I just look like an idiot. Like my friends will bring up posts and we'll be like, I'm sitting in your basement and we're watching TV. It's like stupid, right? But you know, I think this goes back to this idea of like, yeah, there's a part of our nation right now, and like at least I can speak to that because I live in the United States that like needs for us to like fully come to light so we can like live in some
Hmm.
forgiveness, right? Like our whole lives were tracked. When we were 16, maybe we posted something dumb. We probably shouldn't be like vitrioled
Hmm.
until we die. Okay. Like we can forgive that people maybe didn't know. We can go with that argument, especially where you grew up, who grew you up, where you went to schools, right? Like, and we can all agree that the becoming an adult and being exposed to many different people
Hmm.
can change who you are. Okay, fine. But
Uh-oh.
taking away
Okay.
some, oh, did I get
Yeah,
lost?
just for a second, but you're back.
Yeah, but like the whole sexual harassment thing, like you're a shitty person. You deserve to lose your job. So taking away
Especially if you don't
anybody's
like come forward with it like of your own moral accord. If you're forced into it, then yeah, you deserve like what's coming towards.
yeah, I have no place for sexual harassment. So
Hmm.
but yeah, but I kind of agree with you. Like you do something shitty, somebody finds out, like, you know, that is the way of the world, and you're probably actually not going to get canceled if you're elite enough. You'll
Hmm.
just go into hiding for a few years, and
This is
sometimes
one
that's
thing that
enough.
I think is curious in like the adaptation, I guess, of like the legacy systems into crypto. How comfortable people are with transparency, with everything that they're doing being like recorded on some public ledger. Um, like I sometimes grapple with like the idea of like, oh, if I put up all my like biometric data, if I put on my like DNA stuff on some sort of uh, crypto track, if all my music purchases, all of my whatever purchases, how like comfortable do you think a lot of the people who are just I'd spend a buck here and nobody would like bat an eye, I'd buy this much alcohol, nobody would bat an eye, but like now that everything's being more recorded, I don't know, it's itself a kind of a different kind of like monitoring that I'm not sure people are super comfortable with.
That's a very fair statement. I never thought about people judging you for how much wine you buy at the store. You're just an adult and
No, but
life
it's the
is hard.
quality of the
No,
wine,
I'm
Megan.
kidding. It's the quality of the wine. Oh my gosh, honestly, found some great $8, $9 organic red wine.
Always,
It's great.
all of the best shit's cheap.
Yeah, so I do think that's actually a very important point. So we in the beginning you talk about this identity where you control your data and you control X, Y, and Z, and you only have to share a certain part of it, right? That's the whole thing. Instead of going to the
Hmm.
bar and showing like your home address and like I'm 5'5" and have hazel eyes, like I could just like be like show something that says she's over 21. Not that even I'm like 30 years old, right? So we talk a lot about that in the beginning. I don't think we've seen it come to full realization. And I do think hopefully, I mean, this is something like that hopefully people are working on, but you can have certain wallets and certain identities and certain string of numbers for certain things, right? And the people that are really good at it, like know how to do it. Like they know how to like maintain privacy
Hmm.
on this global ledger. And for someone to kind of figure out who you were on a ledger that's constantly recording every transaction globally,
Hmm.
it might be actually kind of hard for somebody to judge you for your purchases. Um,
Yeah, but like as new
but
technology and stuff is kind of.
yeah, of course. And like if you are you one of the people that wants to like upload your bio data and like upload your consciousness to live forever? I certainly don't. When I'm dead, I'm dead. I don't need to be around.
Oh, I'm 100% down for uploading myself into a.
Yeah, I have a few friends that are like some of the people I worked with on was hilarious. I think I'm just down to be done. I'm down to have my energy come back. I'm down to have my energy go back into the earth. Actually, Mary Oliver talks about this. Like when you die, you don't just like die. Your energy turns into something else, and
Mhm.
it's it's reappropriated, which is kind of cool. Like technically, like no one's dead. Like their particles and their energy is like
Yeah, I've never gotten over the.
helping a flower. It's helping a flower grow or
I've never
something.
gotten over the likelihood that I'm in some way drinking Jesus's piss.
That's more likely than drinking his blood though, so at least you're one step ahead of the church there,
But
allegedly. Shouldn't say that in jest.
I'd say in my mind, like the evolution to where we've gotten from like the the birth of the universe from like the Big Bang and stuff. We're all like the same essential cosmic dust from like the same singularity that exploded, but we are like individually the manifestation of that universe trying to understand itself. And so if we're able to like elongate and better refine the universe's understanding, I feel like that is a little bit more like pious to the universe's will, even though like I'm not against or I'm not for piety or following any sort of like godly intentions. But it just I feel like it serves better the purpose of life.
The fact that we are all like that we are all stardust and we all come from the same singularity.
No, that like the universe, in its cycles of like destruction, rebirth, and like reconstruction, like it got to the point where it could sustain, where it could create habitable planets, sustain life, and then have life evolve over millions and millions of years to create something that is able to self-evaluate and ponder the
Mm.
existence of the universe.
Oh, and then I thought you were gonna take it one step further to develop the technology that you could upload your self consciousness and then live forever.
Well, not the ultimate purpose is not to live forever, it's to ultimately ponder forever the universe.
Ponder forever, the universe. So I don't my I'm a big thinker and I don't know if I want to be thinking for that long, but
Yeah.
I do it.
I'd say one of the
I
things
do.
that fuck me in the head more than like the problem of like multiverse or like time travel is time dilation, where you could like make 1 second for one person feel like a million years for another person. That fucks me in the.
Time is a very fascinating concept, and I spent more time on it, LOL, back when I was working on Aquarius, because, everything science fictiony or science oriented, I just spent a lot more time in.
Mhm.
And time isn't necessarily, like forward and backward, and it's perception. You're right, it's perception, all these things. But what I do like, so I love I think this goes back to me feeling small in front of the art.
Mhm.
I think when I first heard like we are all like, cosmic dust, or I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, like has this beautiful statement on, we're more alike. Humans are more like genetically alike, and we're more alike the universe than we are diverse. And some species are more diverse than humans are genetically.
Mhm.
So like this is like the fact that we've kind of factioned into like different pieties or whatnot, or different reasons to be different, when like actually the universe has created us to be so similar to everything else in it, is kind of, I guess, just part of our nature. But it's why that's to me where I'm like, this is why we need to be for all humans and all people and the earth and like all of these things, is because like it is us.
Mhm.
We are it. And I love that feeling, that like sense of interconnectedness, but that sense of feeling small because I am like what is in the skies above me.
Mhm. I like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I also get the sense that he enjoys the ambiance of his own asshole a little bit too much also.
Yeah, he does. I definitely heard that too. I know, isn't it
But
so
his
it's
voice
kind
is
of like
so
sad.
relaxing and
It's
like
so sad.
I don't know. I definitely like there are a lot of people who like went before their time in the sense that Stephen Hawking, he died shortly before they got the first like actual images of a black hole that verified his theories and like all of those things. Like Dali, he died before NFTs and 3D art were possible. Like there are a lot of these like inspirational people who just like they're gone before they were able to like if they were born in this generation where they have created like way more insane things. So I also think that's part of like why we like to like idolize these geniuses, because it's like, you know, sometimes they don't get to live long enough to create even greater masterpieces, and we envy the things that they could have created.
I actually really like that framing of it. But I also think is it kind of like poetically the clock of the universe
Yeah,
or God or whoever you think it is to take people right before
natural
their grandest
time-based
moment, or like
tragedy.
that reminder that yeah, that like that thing that you that probably keeps you grounded as a human is knowing like you're part of advancing something even if you don't get to see it. I mean, isn't that kind of all what we're doing all the time? Like we're advancing our different things with the hopes that we get to see these things, but potentially maybe not. Like
That's
maybe
why you live
I'm sure
forever.
Elon Musk will get to see him land on
There you
Mars.
go.
Oh, I think that gets dangerous. I think that gets dangerous. I think that like what do you contribute or like what cause I think it just has to what are you leaving behind if you know that you get to see it in a way? I don't
Then you
know.
don't have to leave anything behind because you are always seeing it.
I know, but you gotta do we idolize people if they live forever? Like do we have like how many people die and they're like, they're I mean, it's the whole martyrdom in whatever form,
Mhm.
right? I think that's like something to think about. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that, I'm here to make my time and the people around me. Like I'm here to just try to positively impact as many people as I can. And maybe because I'm not a genius, I don't want to upload my consciousness. But I think like after that, like that's what it's about for me. And I guess like I think in a way, like it kind of goes back to like the Midwestern roots in
Mhm.
me. And like, yeah, this has been coming up a lot for me too. You're probably like, wow, this girl thinks a lot, but I do. So I was on this panel for International Women's Day when really I probably just would have wanted a vacation day, circling back to like your comment about Ukraine.
Mhm.
But there's this one part about like the new crypto millionaires look like all the current millionaires, right? And like, or billionaires, sorry. And that's like very true. But like, my whole thing is, and I guess like I don't really see maybe it comes from the same non-idolization thing, but like I see the reason I'm in crypto and doing Shifai is like the feeling that you get from like feeling like you can make financial choices that for some reason somebody told you couldn't, or you didn't study the right thing in
Mhm.
school, or you had to go into some other profession, right? Like I do it for like the feeling
Like a
that
defying an
I'm
expectation.
yeah, it's just more like feelings, the way people feel is more important than a lot of other things. So if I can make a bunch of women feel like they have financial empowerment, like it's not about them becoming billionaires, it's about them feeling empowered and like making their life, to whatever status better they want to.
Mhm.
So like growing up in the Midwest, like my family always like my dad always took care of us. My mom and dad always took care of us. I had like truly everything I wanted,
Well, what
but
part of
like I
Illinois were you from?
never like I didn't idolize. I'm from Libertyville, so like the
Right.
northern suburbs. But it was more like the way that I view wealth is to take care of me and my future family, and then also to do things I enjoy, like trips and whatnot.
Mhm.
But it's not that like crypto is cool, and I'm definitely financially benefiting from it. But I didn't get into it even for the financialization part. So I think sometimes, even though I deal in the business of money and we talk a lot about money, for me, it's not like so my face is on Forbes magazine as the next billionaire. It's like so I can make a bunch of people who didn't feel financially competent before to be financially
Mhm.
competent. And like obviously making money is a part of something I'm interested in because I like live in New York and I have an apartment and I want a family, like all those things. but like it doesn't need to be like to be a
I,
billionaire.
I
So
I definitely
it's funny. It's just funny.
I definitely do wonder like going forward, are like, you know, aspirations for success, are how much are we eventually going to be able to move away from just like the never ending expanse of just growing wealth? Because like, you know, there's no way Bezos was just like his entire objective was like, I'm going to be the hundredth billionaire. Like, you know, everybody's got that idea of like, oh, I want this car, I want this house, I want like, there's literally nothing Jeff Bezos couldn't buy. How do we, like, I wonder for like people like that, how do they measure like what their success is in life, I guess, and how that's going to kind of change as like we like try to like make the financial sector more functional for people, because I feel like that's what a lot of crypto is kind of like moving towards, being able to create wealth, but be able to create wealth that's going to be powerful and accessible for more people than the previous financial systems were established for.
Well, while crypto will definitely achieve that, it's obviously going to miss a lot of people
Hmm.
as well, that are like left out of the financial economy for a ton of systemic reasons. And so, like without UBI or something like a little more forward thinking, like can crypto ever correct, some type of livable situation for everybody? And going back to how policy impacts that. But yeah, I think like the Jeff Bezoses of the world, you're right. They can have
Bezosai,
anything they want. Uh,
a flock of
Bezosai, the
Bezos.
Bezosai, a flock of Bezos. Um, yeah, I think I would actually know all the men to put in there. But I think it's yeah, how do they document their wealth? I mean, I don't know it like that's the thing. That's where I'm like so much of like my life and what I want out of it and what I think is important is like your self-worth. So I don't think I could even understand how like I think there's probably a part where it's a big like mind. I'm sure it gets like heady.
Hmm.
Like I don't even know if I would want I don't like necessarily envy how like you're saying like how do you evaluate like wealth and like what that thing is that you want that brings you that happiness. Like I hope Jeff Bezos has a practice that's not related to that and that he's definitely happy. I'm sure he
I wonder if he
is,
has any
but
hobbies.
I think that's where wealth creation could get I mean, I wonder. I think that's the thing. It's like, in the crypto world, I guess for a lot of people, as some of us are accruing more wealth, it's like, how do you stay grounded? I mean, this is like, in how do you figure out what makes you happy? I think that's why I like these books called The Artist's Way, or like that's why I like humans and relationships, and I like DJ with my girlfriend just for like fun because it's like, and going back to like performing as a young person, like those are the things that make me happy. Like going to a dance class and like learning a combination and like communicating like a cool dance piece and like an emotion
Mhm.
behind it and like that brings me like the most pure form of joy that like no amount of wealth is going to
Hmm.
change like that feeling, and that feeling comes from like those things, right? So I don't know how Bezos, goes about his wealth or whatever, but I think as we think about getting older and we're all naturally, no matter if you're a billionaire below that, a thousandaire, I don't know, a hundred
Or a
thousandaire,
normal person.
you like a normal person, like you have to figure out like what makes you happy and how to stay grounded. And I actually think a problem with like the work world and hustle culture and schooling is like get so far away from that to get to
Yeah.
the money. Like that's where I
Or
think you see people
you can
like
only
have
pursue
these
art if it's gonna
breakdowns.
get you money.
Right. And you can only like you could like I used to not make time for dance classes, and, like, that I think in my mid like, I was a consultant, my first job, and I was working insane hours, and I was on this, like, really intense team, and I was, like, working till 3 a.m., and I was working on all day Saturdays, and, like, I'd look at the blue sky outside, and I'd be like, "Whoa," like, I'm missing out on this, like, part of my young 20s that is, like, just enjoying to play, like, beach volleyball. I lived in Chicago at the time. And I do work really hard and I work a lot and I enjoy what I do, but I make time for things
Hmm.
I love, which is like classes, friends, hosting people, having good conversations in the physical, playing with music, listening to a lot of music, going to shows. And like, I'm pretty protective of my weekends now. And I'm fortunate that I'm a
That's
place that
good.
I'm at, but it, take, it takes work to figure that out.
Yeah,
Like
my
it
brother
took me
definitely has
like
issues with
a
that
little
too. He said this past weekend was like one of the
And
first weekends where he just didn't actually do any work in a while. So I'm glad he got to do that.
yeah, he didn't. And then he mentioned it like the end of Sunday when we were all saying bye, like the group of us together. He started talking about work, and I was like, okay, okay, like let's not talk about it. Just preserve
Hold up!
preserve these
Shut the
last
fuck
few
up!
hours.
We're having fun.
Yeah, and so and like I said, I think I'd be a little bit further along or Shifai, like I'm missing some posts this week on Instagram because I just like was have been enjoying the weekend with my friends, but like in the grand scheme of things, like those posts aren't changing. I'll get back on schedule. So it's like I think I am my late like starting around like honestly, actually mostly within like 28 to 29 to 30 was when I decided like I need to focus more on like what makes me happy and like I need to get like serious about it. I need to wake up and journal in the morning and like do these things that are like selfishly for me or else like I'm not going to know what
Yeah,
that is and
it's
like
crazy.
while I'm working I
It's
want to know what
crazy to
that
think that
is.
we have to like get serious about like trying to take care of ourselves and like the things that make us happy, right?
You know what's funny is I took a really great workshop on feminine and masculine energy because we have both of them in
Is
us.
this like a Jungian
And it's by
class?
a woman named no, it's by a woman named Schuler
Mhm.
Brown. And basically she was in the corporate world and like me scheduling time for my creativity is such a masculine trait, a masculine
Mhm.
energetic trait. And the whole thing was like how to bring more feminine energy into the workplace. Like women flow more, women take care of more. Like at meetings with women, there's usually like water and food, and like we take pee breaks. Like and meetings with men, that doesn't usually happen. It's like get to business,
We take
like
shits.
hold your pee in for 7 hours. No, you guys don't go to the bathroom. It's like crazy. Like I used to be so nervous at IBM to ask to go to the bathroom in a meeting. And it still blows my mind today when we get back to back calls and I'm like, yeah, I'm 2 minutes late. Like I had to go to the bathroom. But women flow more. Women are less
Hmm.
restrictive. Or like, at the end of the day, you're like, I'm gonna relax. It's like so much masculine energy and to like exist in this world. A lot of our energy that even women bring is masculine. So it's like, how can we bring like more feminine is more chaotic, feminine is more whimsical, like
Interesting.
whimsical. So like, how can that actually be like an attribute into the workplaces, and how can that how can we find a better balance of it? It's not like be more feminine, get rid of the masculine. It's like we have all of this in us. And like how can we like use it to create like more
S-
harmony in our
s-
workplaces or in what we're
So
bringing
would
to the
like a feminine
table.
energy thing kind of be like scheduling like a either like a pizza party or like just having an event like all right everybody we're gonna take a stretch just or we're gonna
It's the
uh-huh.
spontaneity. Yeah, so I think it's more like starting the meeting off with a stretch. It's like the caretaking aspect of, yes, like planning a pizza party maybe, and I think that just traditionally falls more on women. Actually, consensus, Maggie Ford, I don't know if you know Maggie Ford yet in, Mochi, but Maggie Ford and I'm Maggie Love, and she was Maggie 1 and I was Maggie 2, and, we would always plan, like, hangouts with the
Mm.
Maggies, and they'd always kind of have a theme, and the whole point was to gather the Consensus Brooklyn office as a community. So like, let's get out of the office, like let's go enjoy pizza, let's go to this event. We did a Halloween one, and I really do miss that about work, and I miss that about seeing Maggie, because that's just like a
Hmm.
pandemic thing, and it just like I do enjoy that. I enjoy getting people out of the
Out of
like I
routines.
enjoy, and it's the extrovert. It's the extrovert thing as well. Like I love meeting people. Like I love learning why people tick.
Hmm.
I love spending time with humans, and I know there's so much more than sitting in front of a computer next to me for like 8 hours a day. And so I do think that's part of it. But the feminine energy thing is more of like the spontaneity or the just like thinking about people more in general. I think like making sure there's water and there's food and like in the beginning of the meeting you can like shoot the
Hmm.
shit and like it doesn't have to be
Serious,
like
serious. Everything's got to be like numbers and figures.
let's start with our male monologues of how impressive we are in every
Hmm.
meeting, right? It's like, oh my gosh, some men at IBM used to go on forever. I was like, dude, you're an executive sales dude. Like, come on,
Yeah,
chill.
there's this thing my
Like,
fraternity did back in college that I actually like really loved. It was called Pass the Gavel, and it was always in the agenda listed as like for the good of the fraternity. And we would just like we'd pass the gavel around. Every member would have the opportunity to like it's just like their talking time, talk about how their week was, and there were a lot of like funny stories. There was a lot of like sad moments, people being like thankful for stuff, people being like, oh, I'm grieving right now, I had a hard time with this test, I lost somebody. had a hard time with like a relationship, and it was just like, they had the time to talk, they had the time to like make jokes, they had the time to do whatever. And like, I don't know if would that technically be in like the realm of like the feminine energy thing, because that was awesome. I loved doing that, and like I feel like we definitely grew closer because of it.
I actually really love that too, and I think that's like the importance of
Hmm.
communities, right? And the importance of a group like Mochi because you don't really get that in the workplace. I mean, sometimes like I can tell my bosses like I'm having a bad day or like, there's so much going on with Black Lives Matter, like it's really bumming me out like this world that we live in and they'll actually like we're on a team of 5, so it's a bit different, but they'll ask me more about it. They'll be like, "Oh, they're a bit older." So they'll be like, "My kids who are in college are going through the same things. Do you mind explaining so we can better to our
Hmm.
kids?" I'll be like, I want to make sure that in my plans for health insurance, like there's money for therapy. And like my bosses will be like, that's an okay topic to talk about. Like, families do therapy,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Right. And I like really love that. And it feels very special. But I do think that's a more, so I do think like yeah, like the stopping the agenda to get to know somebody or how they're doing is more the feminine energy thing. Like the stopping, like the control, the follow the schedule, the get through this, the taskmasters that we all have in
Yeah.
ourselves versus like the getting to know people. And I don't necessarily think we're always going to find that in the workplace or even everybody that you work with deserves to know how you're doing, but that's why like your community, like your fraternity, or that's why Mochi is important to me because like those are the communities where I can be like, hey, this is stressing me out. And like, somebody in Mochi will be like, hey, like, do you want me to call
Hmm.
you? um and they'll just listen. So I think like I've been thinking, you can probably count how many times I've been saying that in this podcast
I was busy counting
about
serendipitous, but you stopped like within the first 40 minutes.
I stopped it. That's good. That's good. Um, so my Mochi goal is to expand my English
Hmm.
vocabulary right now. So as you can see, I that is something I'm working on. However, we have been in this digital place for a long time, for a year, and we're so used to community. I believe is existing as something physical. I guess as you probably as were a gamer, you had more online communities
No, I
growing up.
played mostly solo games.
And
I didn't have good internet.
no communities, no communities on your own. Um, I think that in crypto, there's so many things you can be a part of. Like, hey, Maggie, does Shifai want to be a part of this? And that's a gamma. Does Shifai want to be a part of this? Are you part of these 15 discords? Are you like getting involved in this? And it's like you can be part of communities or you can invest in communities. And I don't think you can do
Hmm.
both. Like, I think we all have to actively choose the communities we want to
Yeah,
invest in
that's tough.
and we want to be a part and we want to grow with and where we put our value. And then you kind of have to shut off the noise of like, maybe you're not in every other
Hmm.
community going on, but if you are in a part of 50 communities, like, are you actually investing in them? And I think that this digital world makes us think we can be a part of 500 communities, but we can't. And you have to be okay with that. And then you have to be like, you have to know what you want to get out of
Yeah.
it. Maybe you just want to graze. Maybe you're a grazer. Like, that's okay. But I think if you want to invest in communities, even if they're digital, like you have to
There's
make
like a
choices.
collective FOMO that we really need to kind of get away from. My brother like mentions this. Like he was always worrying about being on the forefront of things, be like catching things before they hit the mainstream. Like me, I've always struggled with like one of the reasons I like, so I played some online games, but I never really formed too many like longer term relationships because like I didn't want to talk to too many strangers about like nothing in this game, and I didn't want, and there are a lot of like communities that I'm trying to be a little bit more involved in. But yeah, it's hard to like decide to invest your time and your mental energy into being up to date with like what's going on with one game or like a director or a musician.
Yeah, and I think and that's okay. And that's why um I mean it's helpful I'm emoji because I truly like really enjoy all the people in it. So it's almost easier when you found that. And I think what's cool about what Gabe is doing is he's scaling super thoughtfully. So even with Shifai, I'm trying to, do something
Hmm.
similar. And that's the thing, like I have and like Shifai is something I have to like really invest in to make work right now until I really get the like it, really, I guess, oiled, greased up, right? And just like running
Hmm.
itself. And like that's okay. And I'm gonna miss things. I'm gonna miss opportunities. And I may not be the most well-known person everywhere because I don't have my hands in everything, but like uh, just my relationships and where I put my time is super important. And I think like even, and I think this is almost a newer thing of this year. Like I'm like I'm done with the FOMO. Like I know the types of people who are involved in what and the types of people that make me better and the communities that make me better. And I want to give back to those communities rather than try to be somebody across many communities.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely appreciate you plugging Mochi way more than I am. It saves me the energy of like having to like work in like, oh yeah, back to Mochi. Da, 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 da.
No, I mean, it was like, I mean, I think it because also I think the Slack started like right before the
Mhm.
pandemic, or I don't really remember. Like everything that happened last year is like one long but short but 500-year event. Like Tiger King was
Yeah,
500
Christ.
years ago, so time is a little. This whole we come back to this concept of time, but like it was a very important community for me during the pandemic. It was a place where I could talk about things and where I started like the album listening hang and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I think
So
it's natural that I'm plugging it because I
what
do
what
spend my
groups would you
time
say you're
there.
like the most involved with in Mochi? What channels do you kind of
Uh,
keep the most attention to?
Definitely the Twitter channel because I love Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. Tweets are a love
I don't
language.
touch it, but I really
No, I'm
should.
kidding, but I think it's oh, it's so, I mean, be careful. It's like the funniest and
Mm.
scariest and like it's like you experience all the emotions with like one
I
scroll,
get
but like
enough.
I
I get
mainly
enough
laugh.
knowing that it's Trump's preferred medium.
Okay, fair, but I laugh so much on it, and like laughter is a super important part of my
Hmm.
existence. So I appreciate it. But I did start the classic albums by women listening. Hey, let me show the book because it's right here.
You
So I
prepped
got this
everything
book.
right before this, didn't you?
No, it just means that I haven't put the album in for the week, and so it's out by my computer. So I hopefully do
Nice.
it today. But I got that actually by going to the woman who created it is Colleen Cosmo Murphy, who does the Loft stuff. So Gabe knows her and like ran into her in Japan. And so she was having a book signing right before a Loft party, and Gabe was in town. And I asked all my girlfriends to come, and they were like, no. And I was just going to go regardless. And Gabe's like, oh, I'll come. So we went. And then and because he knew her, he also was able, like, and knew the people there. He's able to get me to the Loft, which is really cool. But I got this book, and it's just been sitting there. And I obviously haven't read it, and I'm like, this is the problem with me is I like get these things that I don't utilize them. And then during the pandemic, like what else were we going to do? Um, but I thought of this idea, like, what if I just go through this book week page by like, okay, I should explain it. In this book, there is somebody involved in the music industry, and they pick their most influential album by
Hmm.
a woman. So this is Don Lutz, filmmaker, DJ, radio broadcaster. He chose Patti Smith Horses. So by like having a, I was like, what if I post an album every week in Slack by a woman, and like we listen to that, or I give you the opportunity to listen to it, and then you know during the pandemic we were listening more frequently, like every other week we'd get together and listen to something, but now it's like just once a month, and I might even change the day because it's Thursdays and those are tough nights for people. But like just having in a group of people to do it with, it's making me do it, right? So there is something to be said for that idea of community and actually doing things. So I run that channel. So I would say like I'm active in that.
Hmm.
I'm active in the music channel because I also love music. I'm active in the yield farming channel because it is crypto. I kind of think I started the yield farming channel in a way. Like I was already into the hype, and now
Ooh.
it's more about like crypto chat.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was like I was the original DJen in Mochi. But we now we meet and we talk about different investments we could do as a group, right? So I'm very active in that.
I'm still trying to get my
And I
handle
think
of it because it like there's just so much going around, and like I'm still trying to learn terminology and shit.
yeah, so I think those are my most active channels, like, and then I participate in the late stage capitalism one because I think very fascinating conversations happen there.
Hmm.
And so I would say those are my most active channels. Classic albums, Twitter. I have a Shifai channel. It's not as active yet because I kind of use like the general channel for my Shifai stuff because I'm sort of just sharing it with all of Mochi by way of even though that you're men, you're in Mochi.
Hmm.
So I guess it counts for something. But the goal is to charge men and keep it free for women though. But So I would say those are my most active channels, and yeah, but I check all of them, honestly. I don't read all the stuff, read all the articles posted in all of them, but I do check all of
Mhm.
them. And I wanted to be involved in a reading club, but that happens on Saturdays, and my extroverted self isn't in on many Saturdays. And then I wanted to do, and I was reading with the reading club, so it was good for me, but just like things have gotten a little crazier
Mhm.
lately, with Shifai picking. And I want to, I like the zine idea. I think it's really awesome. I just also know I don't have enough time for it, so I am trying to be a bit more aware of like my engagement in Mochi. But yeah, it's like crypto stuff, music stuff is probably where you could say I spend most of my
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, I'm helping out with editing for the zine, so a lot of the stuff's really cool.
Uh,
I think you'll like it.
I'm sure it is. I know.
Yeah.
I will. I definitely will.
Well,
I'm looking forward
one
to
thing
it.
I'm curious about.
There, I let you plug it.
One thing I'm curious about is so like what was what why would you say is like Shifi like really the thing that you're kind of like most motivated in? Why would you say that it is like super necessary and like like why specifically do you think more women need to be getting into it? I guess aside from the fact that like it is generally otherwise a largely male dominated space.
Yes. So other than that is uh, there's so many studies that show if you are a woman who is in control of your finances or empowered to make financial decisions, like your life is significantly
Hmm.
better, right? So the optionality you have in life from being financially independent, and I think we like grew up in the era of like a large divorce rate, and we grew up in an era
Hmm.
where a lot of women give up their uh like financial
But I
uh
guess I'm asking, but
knowledge.
I guess I'm asking, like, what would you say is your personal motivation behind it? I guess you're like your feminist stake in it.
My feminist stake, my personal motivation is I I'm a female that has a lot of female friends. I love female friendships. I think women bring so much to this world, and I
At
think they're
least fifty
awesome. And
percent.
my yes, my stake in it is like I believe that like when more like okay, so it just truly comes from a place of like wanting people to feel good and empowered, and I just like want to do that. I just want people to
Now, but
feel
you're saying
like
people.
and you're saying me, what
No,
drives
no, no.
me?
But you're saying people. You want them to feel empowered. But
You want women.
okay,
I want but I mean, some women can go by them, so we have to be
okay,
careful.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
um, I want women to I believe that crypto is the next financial rails of the world, and I want women to be active participants and leaders in it, and I don't think that's going to happen. You I really hate build it and they will come. There's so many different types of learners out in this
Hmm.
world, and I believe that some women will prefer this channel, some might not, but there my channel doesn't really exist anywhere else, or the way I'm doing it doesn't exist, and I want to make sure that channel exists. And I've worked in spaces where I've been a part of like every DNI policy making work group,
Hmm.
right? And like that wasn't working. Like I'm sorry, if the HR and Men in Power don't care, like there is nothing. And if I write a policy that's like every event that we agree to, there should be like 2/3 representation of women, LGBTQIA, transgender, whatever POC. Like
Technically, I think it's
I
BIPOC.
need so much
BI.
BIPOC.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need so much buy-in for that versus if I just teach women to do the
Hmm.
things. Like, it's kind of like if I just teach women to like play with their money and experiment and know these things, then like naturally there will be more women within the ecosystem or using it and maybe more leaders. And then maybe we don't have to do this whole like hoping that, men remember us
Hmm.
because like we know how to do it and you're a natural decision. So I think it's more like I've been on all sides of the DNI work and I got tired of it and I just wanted to do it by like empowering women. And I just like I want to see the like women's success. Like I'm not a believer in this like one seat at the table, I'm the one at the top. Like, this whole like idea of leaning in. Like I will say I don't like Sandra Gold, what's her name? Facebook woman.
Uh,
We're both feminists. This isn't gonna work. The woman who wrote Lean In, like we wouldn't have to lean in if there was more of us allowed at the
Mm-hmm.
table, right? Like lean in is such a I'm a woman, lean in, be the woman with all the men. Like, no, the table should be big enough for women, for all of us, and we should not have to lean in. And like the only way you do that is if you bring up women with you. And I have a special access to information in an industry I've been working in, and I'm going to give it to women and not just like educate them, but like teach them actively how to do these things. And I just think that without that, like we are like our systems and our and even our financial systems, think about how much you miss as a person creating with people exactly like
Mm-hmm.
you. Like you need diverse teams, you need diverse people in your ecosystems with their perspectives in order to build a truly global financial
To
like
capture more of
okay,
the
if we're building
market, really.
products that are globally accessible, right. If we're building globally accessible products, but it's a bunch of dudes that live in, you know, the Midwest, like do you actually know what a woman's perspective is in Egypt
No, but we could
or
tell you a
Iran?
shitload about
Do you even know
corn.
what a a lot about corn. You've driven through so much corn. So that's what it is too. It's like if I empower women to then they feel like they can either join a team or something, I'm making the whole industry I'm making more robust and inclusive and resilient because it's shaped by multiple backgrounds and multiple people. And I think I specifically have a closer pulse to women than I do to people of other backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
from other parts of the world. So like I'm trying to start there and like hopefully grow my team in a way that is thoughtful that we can start accessing these other people and we can go beyond the women people that identify as women. But I'm also starting like there's a lot of reasons to start with just women too, like the ability to share experiences and have like kind of this group of that's not a man in there being like, "Oh, well, that's silly. You should
Mm-hmm.
have just done this." You know, so there's a reason that that's there too. And I know not every woman prefers like women only groups, but the women in Shifai do, and the women who don't prefer that can be a part of a different group, and that's okay. There's like many ways to be a woman in this world and in the groups you want to
I
identify
think
with.
one of my favorite Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I can't say quote because I can't remember the word for word, but like somebody asked her when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court, and she said like when it's all women. And they asked, "Isn't that too much?
Yeah.
Isn't that too much?" I mean, there have been men on this court for I don't know how many decades, and nobody batted an eye. So.
I know. Yeah, so I think her name's Cheryl Sanders. That's her name. Sorry,
Mhm.
going back to Facebook. But yeah, I don't. I believe that women have so much to contribute, and I believe in a world that is way more women at the table. And I think that if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be sharing this. And my whole thing is to just get more women there. I don't have to be the one woman in the room knowing the cool crypto stuff. I think that's a huge detriment to the Web3 world that
Mhm.
we're trying to build. And policies don't get it done, and people building companies don't get it done. So I'm just going to do it myself. I kind of like to, I've been reflecting on like, instead of be the change you want to see in the world, like do the change you want to see in the world, right? I'm a doer. So I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to create the content and I'm going to like not just be a nice, kind person who knows about crypto and shit, like, and like sometimes talks about with friends. I'm going to like do the she fi thing and like do the education part and like get the women up to speed
You should
and
try to get a
engage with them.
sponsorship from Nike.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I do like Nike though. Trying to find some new cool
I don't know
sneakers.
if it. I can't. I
But
don't
yeah.
know who the quote was. A lot of people attributed it to Kanye. I don't know if it is what it be, but it do.
Yeah. But I do.
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of my
We're
vibe.
coming up at time. Any last things that you'd really want to plug that you want to kind of get out there into the world, into the at least the Mochi world, if nobody else watches these podcasts.
To the Mochi world, I no, I think I'm okay. I think,
Shifai.
you know, if you're new
Uh,
to Mochi, Shifai, join Shifai, come to Classic Albums by Women. We hang out once a month. Join the channel if you just want to like
you got a
explore
Discord or anything?
new female artists without going by an algorithm. Don't have a Discord. I'm a millennial in that way, but I'm trying really hard to
I'm
get on
still
the
trying to learn
Discord
it too.
game. So that could be fun though, a Classic Albums by Women Discord. But like, yeah, come listen to music that you're not finding through an algorithm. Like that's the biggest plug for Classic Albums. It's like I'm going page by page through a book. I'm not just like hoping Spotify shows me new female artists. So I think that's kind of fun. It's like a different way to explore music. Um, And come to Shifai, ask me questions about DeFi, join the yield farming channel if you're just interested in reading crypto articles.
When do your next cohorts
If
start?
you Yeah, so one just started on Monday, which was really fascinating and great. So probably not for another like 6
Mm-hmm.
months. So unfortunately, I can't say join now. But if you are a late comer and you're a female, I've only done one session with this group, so I could give you the recording and you could get up to speed. So that could work as well. I have been known to like give people the recordings who want to join a
Follow
bit
your Twitter.
later. And yeah, oh my gosh, follow my Twitter, Emmy Love
Gotta get them follows.
_07. The Emmy, me Love is because my middle name actually begins with E.
Ah,
But also follow Shifai on Instagram. So it's Shifai _crypto. The reason I say that is because uh, crypto Twitter is already a little congested, and most of the people I want to bring into Shifai are new to crypto. So I do believe Instagram is the better medium for that. So Alyssa May is helping
my
me
sister.
make it look cool,
Oh, nice.
trendy. Yeah. Because I have no design, like no, I know she's an artist more than a designer, so I'm gonna say she's a true artist. But in that way, she brings a really very, cool and hip and Gen Z aesthetic. So I'm trying to work on that. So come to Shifai _crypto. I'm gonna plug that. You can follow she __fi on Twitter as well. But come hang with us on Instagram. That's where it is. And yeah, follow me on Twitter. I use Twitter part for crypto and part for just like jokes. So don't expect it all to be crypto if you do follow me. And yeah, that's about it. That is all she wrote, all she can remember in the
Dope.
moment.
All right. Thank you, Maggie, for being my guest on our Mochi podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was great
Absolutely.
talking
I
to
enjoyed
you.
the conversation too. Bye-bye.
Bye.